Hi, Jamie Boggs with Burning River Bushcraft back with you again. I've got a fishing series going on here in case you haven't noticed, and I've been focusing on passive fishing. That way I'm gathering food while I'm doing other things, while I'm building a shelter, while I'm maintaining my firewood. I can be sitting in the shade relaxing while my trot line, yo-yos, whatever I've got out there is working for me. The last video, I don't know if you saw it yet, I went over a survival card that was like a breakaway hooks, different spinners, treble hooks all on there. And of course, if I was in a situation that I had to need that I had to use it, I would set it up in a trot line configuration or limb lines, because that seems to be what's working best for me. To break it up a little bit, I attempted to use it on a piece of river cane. So I just went for a cane pole, just like you could cut a sapling or break a limb off in a survival situation, using the line that you had, not using standard fishing gear. So this situation I was going for was I had that card and my normal 10-piece kit, and that was it. So I just kind of improvised and went from there, and I actually was struggling with it. I didn't have the time to fish like I wanted to, either time of day or the hours to put in. That's the advantage of the passive system. It's working all the time. So what I want to do today is cover a situation where you actually are packing gear to fish. Now, of course, I could take a collapsible fishing rod. You've got the possibility of, the reel breaking, getting smashed, getting lost if they're separated while it's in a packed state. So one thing I kind of wanted to go over today, this is a Cuban Yo Yo. This is for hand fishing. And this is actually set up like for salt water. This is like a deluxe edition of a Cuban Yo Yo. But the premise is you've got a round plastic reel to hold your line on. As you cast, you just throw the line out, the reel comes off, and then you can wrap it back on. It keeps your line nice and organized. It's very similar to a bow fishing reel, actually. No matter how you were planning on using monofilament, if you were making drops off a trot line, if you were making limb lines, this is an excellent way to carry fishing line as opposed to a spool, the factory spool, and you also have the advantage of being able to cast with it. So let me show you this up close here. This setup here has a swivel, and then this is actually like a cable steel leader with a big old hook on it. This is not going to do me any good here, I wouldn't think. I'm going to bait it up and cast it out just to get the full effect of the yo-yo. This is a heavy weight on here, which would be great in turbulent water. Way more than I need here, but I bet you I can cast this thing across the pond to the dirt on the other side. So we'll bait it up, we'll do a few casts, and then I believe I'm going to switch to a regular, like a topwater lure. I've said before, I've got a lot of weeds out here. This thing's going to sink, and I'm going to be pulling in, it looks like a salad bar by the time I reel it in finally. But if you were packing this, you can pack spinners, like a topwater plug, like a plastic frog, something weedless. But this is definitely going to be an option when you know you're going to be fishing, plan on fishing, and have the gear for it. Like I said before, in my mind, this is just going to be a practice cast. But I am going to bait the hook, because you never know what the heck's going to happen. I'm going to bait it with just a soft bait. That's what I've got available right now. But I am going to set this up weedless, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So basically, I'm going to go right through the head of this soft bait, and I'm going to poke out after I'm in about a 1/4 inch or so. Okay, so it looks kind of like that. Not very weedless yet. But I'm going to slide this up the hook. Okay. and then I'm going to sink the point into the bait. So basically that's what I'm going for. And it's not going to be weedless. I'm still going to have weeds, but I'm going to have a lot less than throwing a big hook bare or baited in a U configuration out into the water. So here's the premise. There's a funnel end of the yo-yo, or I'm sorry, of the Cuban yo-yo, and there's a curled over back end. You hold it so the flared out end is pointing in your direction, and then your thumb is actually the stop. So your thumb can slow down the line, almost act like a drag. If you overthrew your intended target, say there was a specific log you were trying to land a bait right by, you could slow down the line in flight with your thumb slightly. So here's a close-up of the two sides. Okay, this would be the back, this would be the front going towards your cast. Okay, my fingers are tucked in out of the way, my thumb rides over the top, and I can hold line like this. It's really a great setup. Real simple. Let me throw some line out here. We'll see how far I can throw this. That was about halfway across the pond. No swinging, no wind up, no nothing. Just chucking it out there. Then to reel it in, just like reeling a garden hose. On a setup like this, you're going to need stronger pound test than you would traditionally use on a rod and reel, because there's no give. It's your hand and a hook and a string in the middle. That's it. You don't have that flex of a cane pole, a branch, a fishing pole to take stress off the line. The test on this reel is really heavy. Like I said, this is like saltwater heavy. Okay. So I got a little bit of junk on here, but it's not bad considering. Most of it's stuck to the weight and the swivels. I can live with that. There was a few practice casts with the factory saltwater setup. I'm gonna, in this situation, have normal fishing gear with me because I'm packing a yo-yo from the start. So I'm gonna come back probably closer to evening when fish should be traditionally biting more. I'll try to run a couple topwater plugs across, maybe a few spinners. It all depends on your dexterity, how good you are at reeling in the line, on what kind of baits you can use with this. Push comes to shove, I will just use a regular hook and a bobber, throw it out there and see what we can get. I'm back out here with the yo-yo, giving this thing another try, but I'm going to do full disclosure here. The original one that I had, like I showed before, it was set up for, definitely for like a saltwater configuration. It had a heavy steel leader and the monster hook, monster weight on it. My original intention was to cut all that off and rig it for something more usable for my situation. But the more I casted with it, the more I used it, the more I put a normal lure for what I would be using on it, the line was so ridiculously heavy that I believe it was affecting my performance. So what I ended up doing is I got a second one. I bought this one bare. This one had no line on it, and I believe this is a number 12 test that I put on here. It's a lot more realistic, I believe. The original one that I had, it looked like weed eater line. It was so heavy. This lays a lot better, lets me cast a lot easier, and everything that I'm going to be dealing with, this will handle it. So I could have just stripped all the line off and went by like everything was fine, but I kind of do like the idea of having one set up for heavy duty use. But for out here, I just went ahead and bought a second one. These things are cheap. So I've got this set up with a top water lure. This is like a frog here, and it is set up weedless. Now with that frog on there, I'm just giving it like a little twitch. The only strike I had was right on impact when it landed. Seems like this Cuban Yo Yo, you need to throw the line straight. If you try to get an arc to it at all, it hangs up on you. No fish tonight. I'm losing daylight here quick. This is just fishing. This is no longer in the realm of survival fishing. You can look on YouTube. There's people fish for sharks and everything else with these things. This is a proven technique. You're just applying it to my environment using standard, top water lures. This is just a matter of putting the time in. I got strikes. You got to really pay attention to the slack in your line with a yo-yo. That's one thing I did learn. You don't have the benefit of being able to set the hook and have that pole help you out. You have to keep a taut line so you can set the hook quickly. A couple other pointers with the yo-yo. I did snag on my knife from time to time. So, you're getting that swing in motion with extra line coming off, so it's very similar to having a bow reel. You want to make sure nothing catches that, because if the line gets caught on your knife or anything on your belt or a stick or a weed, that sucker's flying around and coming back at you. With a small lure like this, it's not a big deal, but if you were to have a sizable weight on there, that could possibly hurt you coming back at you like that. I did utilize the thumb drag a couple times. I overcasted, and I was headed into the weeds where I wasn't after, and I just kind of was able to slow it down. Seems like when you really try to cast it far, it doesn't work out as well. Just nice simple tosses, and everything's got to be straight in line. if you start arcing the cast one way or another, it causes you more tangles. So here's the yo-yo, Cuban yo-yo, rigged up with a speed hook. Basically, I understand that the speed hook works. I know that a hand reel works. I want to test the viability of casting out the speed hook. This should work really well with kids. If you help them cast it out, or it's got a little mass to it, maybe they can cast it out themselves. They definitely have to be less attentive to the bobber as far as setting their hook to help them land the fish. So the first attempt at casting out, I don't know if I was too aggressive with it and it slipped off, the trigger slipped off the ring, or possibly it opened on impact, but it didn't feel quite right. I reeled it in and tried a nice easy cast. I am still further out than I would be able to get with a cane pole, so for the weight and convenience that's involved with a hand reel like this, I would definitely consider packing this. So here's another advantage to the Cuban Yo Yo. Got a yo-yo with a hole on a rock. Basically, I'm going to plant that reel on a rock. That way, again, I can be doing other things. This is not truly passive fishing like I do with the yo-yos or the trout line, the tripod setups. But as long as I'm happy with my cast, I'm going to be holding this thing in my hand. But the speed hook on the yo-yo enables me to basically drift off and really not pay attention to it anymore. I was having issues with the yo-yo if I get too much slack in the line. When I want to set the hook, there's that constant delay as I pull up the slack first. So this should eliminate that. So as I'm enjoying this beautiful evening out here, I just thought I'd give you my final thoughts on the Cuban Yo Yo. The advantage to hand fishing over just having a line and cutting a quick pole is the length of the cast. The yo-yo wasn't quite as intuitive as I thought it would be. I still had some learning curves. You've got to watch any kind of brush. It hangs up fairly quickly. You've also got to watch the direction that you hold the funneled end of the yo-yo. Makes a big difference on your cast. Also, when I don't try to muscle it, when I just take a nice, smooth, steady swing, seems like the line comes off a whole lot easier. Even my worst casts are still longer than what I was getting with a cane pole. Now, of course, I could cut a longer cane pole and give me that much stretch and require less dexterity, but I was working with what I had. So the cost on these yo-yos is very minimal. I like the advantage that it keeps your line nice and organized, immediately available to use. So I can run this off and cut leaders for myself, or I can pick it up out of a bag, put a hook on it, and start casting right away. There is a learning curve with the casting technique. It was not quite as easy as I believed it was going to be. I would say this is a direct comparison to something like a pocket fishing kit. This is something I made for about the same concept for hand fishing. This is actually a drill bit case. I put a lanyard on it, piece of tape to hold the line in, and I've just got regular fishing line wrapped on it. I can hold my thumb on the line to adjust the reel, and I can get more of a sidearm throwing motion cast with this as opposed to the Cuban Yo Yo. I actually find this is a little easier to cast, but I've got more experience with this also. Another advantage to the pocket fishing kit over the yo-yo is that I have a container here, and you can hear I've got hooks and assorted fishing gear in here. So really either hand fishing technique works. This is very inexpensive. This is like free. Just a little time is all it takes. So fishing is a key element to longer term self-reliance. It's way too easy to catch fish. The seasons are longer. You get a manageable food supply as opposed to shooting a deer where you've immediately got to jerk it or make pemmican or smoke it. You've got something to do to deal with this thing. You can pull a fish or two out of the water and you've got instant dinner. The cost of this, the convenience of carrying the line, and the fact that it's so versatile. You can use it for, you know, deep water fishing. Obviously this was set up for salt water when I originally got it. You can also have it rigged up with a float like I did. I was working top water plugs along the water. Very versatile piece of equipment. I can't see not getting one. So on the yo-yo I am getting premature trips. So it could be me casting it, or maybe I could increase the tension a little bit. So I'm not going to make any adjustment to the tension right now. I've only got time for a few more casts this evening. Now that sank right away. I wasn't sure what was going on. Okay. So this is a twofer here. I got a Cuban Yo Yo hand reel and the speed hook. See the speed hook set off. Decent little bass. Lip caught him. Another thing about the speed hooks, especially with kids out here, you got less likely the fish is going to swallow the hook before the kid actually realizes that there's a fish on the line and sets the hook. So just a light lip catch like that on a hand reel, you know, I'm doing a few more casts before I head in for the night. Great results. Happy with everything. The yo-yo cast fine. Casting the speed hook is a little bit of an issue. I could probably tension those up a little bit if I was going to do that all the time with them, but obviously it works. And the speed hook itself, 2 for 2. That's great odds. So, Jamie Boggs, Burning River Bushcraft. See you next time.